Welcome to CJWinter How-To video series. Here at CJWinter, we provide better tools, fast delivery, great service, and value.
As the known resource in thread rolling dies, attachments, and tooling for the screw machine industry, we recognize the importance of producing first-rate quality products. Superior products that deliver the outstanding performance you need and deserve in today's competitive marketplace. But a quality product is only beneficial if it's backed by proper setup and installation. In realizing this, we have developed the following program. A program that combines our expertise and experience to allow you to obtain the most from your winter attachment. The guidelines set forth in this program are not intended to be complete and do not cover every possible condition associated with the safe usage of your attachment. For more detailed information, please refer to the instruction manual supplied with your attachment. Before you begin setting up your attachment, read your instruction manual thoroughly. This will help you to fully understand your attachment's application and prevent costly errors or accidents. While reading, pay close attention to Section 5, particularly the thread rolling capacity and reference data charts. These charts are individually designed for each attachment and contain vital information that's critical to the success of your attachment's installation. In the first column of the chart, locate the thread size you plan to roll. Next, the starts and outside diameter columns refer to the diameter of the thread roll and as the dimension in which the remainder of the information on the chart is based. The fourth column, maximum stock diameter, pertains to the largest diameter the attachment will clear when rolling that thread size. Because this dimension varies with each application, it must be checked each time the attachment set up for a specific application. If hex or other shape stock is used, be sure to calculate the dimension across the corners rather than using the stock size itself. The fifth column, blank diameter, refers to the recommended initial diameter which the blank should be shaved to before thread rolling. This recommended diameter is a starting point only. The sixth column, gauge setting, refers to the micrometer setting gauge dimension necessary to adjust the cross slide so that when in the full forward position, the attachment is properly positioned over the thread blank. Use of this gauge will be covered later in the program. The last three columns, wedge size, wedge roller diameter, and spring, will be covered later during the setup of your attachment. Before mounting your winter attachment, check the air pressure and volume of air at your machine. All attachments must have a steady source of clean, dry air that flows through a supply line of at least 1/2 inch ID while maintaining a minimum pressure of 80 psi. Operating the attachment with less than this amount can cause inconsistent thread size, damage the thread rolls, and harm the thread rolling attachment. Next, check your machine's cross-slide travel. It must provide sufficient backward travel in order to clear the attachment during index or other adjacent tooling. For more information on this, refer to the machine application chart in Section 5 of your manual. This chart will indicate whether or not increased cross-slide travel is necessary on your machine, and if so, how much. If your machine is not listed in the chart, refer to the factory for the required slide travel. At this time, also examine the mounting information and trip bracket assembly drawings in Section 5. Check for any machine modifications or special requirements that might be needed for proper installation. Before beginning setup, make sure you have all the following items: the attachment, the thread rolls, all wedges, wedge rollers, and roll arm return springs, a set of Allen wrenches, and your instruction manual. Open the manual to Section 5 and refer to the thread rolling capacity and reference data charts. Find the attachment model you have, pick out the corresponding thread size you wish to roll, and select the thread rolls necessary for that application. Now select the correct size wedges, wedge rollers, and return springs. For your convenience, the wedge and wedge rollers have been stamped with part numbers and sizes, and the springs have been color-coded for easy identification. To select the proper combination, first view the set of wedges, wedge rollers, and return springs already installed in your attachment. If these parts are not the correct size needed for your application, replace them with the necessary size parts. After selecting the correct parts, begin installation by removing the cap screws and idler gear guard off of each roll arm. Loosen the fulcrum pin set screws and remove the fulcrum pin and idler gear from each roll arm. While being careful not to overextend the roll arm return spring, remove the roll arm assemblies from the attachment. If you need to change the wedge rollers or roll arm spring, loosen the wedge roller pin set screw and remove the wedge roller pin, the wedge roller, and the roll arm return spring. Now, install the correct wedge roller and roll arm return spring. Make sure to align the retention flat on the pin, insert the pin, and tighten the set screw. At this point, each end of the wedge roller pin must be flush or below the sides of the roll arm. If you need to install a different wedge, begin by directing a short burst of air into the quick disconnect sockets located at the rear of the attachment. This will push the piston to the full forward position. Loosen the wedge adapter pin set screw and remove the pin along with the wedge. Reinsert the wedge adapter pin. Make sure to align the retention flat on the pin under the set screw. The wedge adapter pin must be flush or below the wedge adapter. Now, tighten the set screw. Direct another short burst of air into the quick disconnect sockets located at the front of the attachment and push the piston to the full backward position. Before reinstalling the roll arms into the roll arm bracket, inspect the compensator gears. They may need to be cleaned or replaced. To remove the gears, first take off the gear center guard. Loosen the adjusting collar cap screw. Using snap ring pliers, remove the C-ring from the end of the shaft. 2 set screws are used to secure the gear shaft. Remove the outside screw. The inside screw, which keys the shaft, should be removed next. The compensator can now be disassembled. Since the compensator spring retainer houses 2 opposing springs under pressure, slowly remove the adjusting collar and cover plate. Remove both gears from the bushing for inspection, cleaning, or replacement. After inspection, replace the gears in the bushing. Position the spring retainer on the external gear so that the set screw lines up with the key slot. Hold the shaft in position while replacing the inside set screw. Turn the set screw all the way down and then loosen it by turning back 1/4 turn. Now replace the outside set screw. Check both gears by rotating them. They should rotate without binding. Locate the spot where the 2 springs meet. The adjusting collar must be inserted in this spot between the springs. Replace the C-clip to hold the internal gear and tighten the adjusting collar cap screw. Finish by replacing the center guard over the compensator gears. While holding the roll arms in the bracket, install the fulcrum pin and idler gear in each roll arm. Make sure that the gear hubs face in opposite directions when reinstalling. Failure to follow this procedure will obstruct your ability to adjust the timing marks. Before installing the thread rolls, examine the carbide roll pin. Note that it's held in position between two set screws. There are two types of roll arm set screws, Type A and Type B. For Type A, one set screw is located on the inside portion of the roll arm assembly and is known as the taper adjusting set screw. This screw's position should not be changed when removing or installing the roll pins, since it affects the taper adjustment of the head. The second screw, located on the outside portion of the roll arm assembly, is known as the locking set screw and should be used when removing or installing roll pins. For Type B, the slotted taper adjusting screw is located in the front, and the locking set screw is located on the inside of the roll arm. All roll pins are supplied with a partial U-shaped retention flat and a full L-shaped flat. In order to install the roll pin, the full L-shaped flat must always be aligned with the taper adjusting set screw. If you have Type A and have loosened the outside set screw and the roll pin is still not free, your thread rolling attachment may have two set screws, one behind the other. If this is the case, remove the first set screw completely to gain access to the second set screw. Now remove the roll gear guard. Observe the positions of the roll gear washer, and the thrust washer or thrust bearing if applicable. Loosen the locking set screw and remove the roll pin. Notice that the roll pin can only be removed in one direction. This is due to the L-shaped flat. Next, install the thread roll while engaging the tangs of the roll gear in the thread roll drive slot. Make sure the roll gear washer is properly positioned between the roll gear and the thread roll. If applicable, the thrust washer must also be properly positioned on the locating pin or the thrust bearings installed in their counterbores. Reinstall the roll gear guards on both arms and rotate the compensator to check for any binding of the thread rolls or gear train. To initially set the correct distance between the thread rolls, direct a short burst of air into the rear quick disconnect socket. This will move the wedge to the full forward position. Check the distance between the thread rolls by using a gauge pin or gauge block. If the distance between the rolls is greater than the blank diameter, direct another burst of air to the front quick disconnect socket to return the attachment to the open position. Turn the pitch diameter adjustment knob at the rear of the attachment in the minus direction. Direct another burst of air to the rear quick disconnect socket and check the distance to the thread rolls again. Repeat this procedure until the thread rolls are at the proper distance. If the rolls are too close together before you start, simply turn the pitch diameter knob in the plus direction. Once the thread roll distance has been adjusted, synchronize the thread rolls by directing another short burst of air into the rear quick disconnect socket. The wedge should now be in the full forward position. Next, locate the timing marks on the thread rolls. These timing marks represent a recommended starting point and have been provided for your convenience. If you choose to use the provided timing marks, loosen the adjusting collar cap screw on the attachment compensator mechanism. While holding one roll, rotate the other roll until the timing marks point directly at each other. Securely tighten the adjusting collar cap screw. Rotate the compensator to make sure the timing marks come back to each other. Direct another burst of air to the front quick disconnect socket to return the attachment to the open position. If applicable, complete the bench setup by disassembling the power pack and bracket. This will make it easier when installing your attachment onto the machine.
This video we will show how to set the taper on CJWinter pneumatic attachments. There are two different types of attachments. Type A, which has a double dog point, and that's for our 125, 141, 151 series, 160 and 170 series. And then Type B, which has a taper set screw for our 134, our 162 and 172 series. Let's begin with Type A double dog point style attachment. The tools we will need to set the taper on CJWinter pneumatic attachments will be a surface plate, a 2 by 2.5 by 6 riser block, Allen wrenches, an adjustable indicator stand, and a 1/10 resolution indicator. The first taper setting we will do is the Type A double dog point, and this is being done on 170 series thread rolling attachment. The first thing we do is we remove the thread rolls and everything else from there, and we indicate the carbide roll pin on both sides to see how parallel it is. Noting that when we do this, the attachment is resting on the bracket where we located the machine as well. So we looked at it, and what was the reading on that?
It was off by a thou and a half.
So the reading, it wasn't in parallel, a thou and a half off. So what we're doing now is we're loosening one Allen wrench, or one set screw with the Allen wrench, and then moving it accordingly. What side are you bringing down, Joe?
I am zeroing on this side and making my adjustments on this side.
Okay.
So this side was low, so I loosened this and tightened the bottom.
And now you're going to re-indicate. Okay.
Yes. I always reset my zero because you move stuff.
With the adjustable indicator, you can zero out easier on your max limit.
And I'm within 3/10.
So now Joe was able to do it within 3/10. And then what we do now is we do the other side. Sometimes people flip it upside down, but just as convenient because of the nice setup here, just to move your indicator up and indicate the other carbide bushing or carbide pin on the roll bracket. And Joe's indicating the right side, which is the non-moving side first, and zeroes that out, and then he indicates the adjustable side. And how does that look?
This one is within 2/10.
So that one is within 2/10, so we don't need to adjust that. And that's how you do the taper setting adjustments on a pneumatic attachment for Type A or the double dog point style. We will now show how to set taper on Type B taper set screw style attachments. The tools you will need to do the taper setting adjustments for the pneumatic attachments for Type B or 134 series, 162, 172 series are a surface plate, 2 by 2.5 by 6 riser block, Allen wrench, flat bladed screwdriver, adjustable indicator stand, and a 1/10 resolution indicator. We will be showing how to set taper on a CJWinter pneumatic attachment Type B with a taper set screw, which is typically 134, 162, 172 series of attachments. This particular attachment is a 162 attachment. And the first thing we do is we indicate the carbide roll pin after we remove the rolls and everything. And we zero out basically on the non-movable side of the adjustment. We zero that out, and then we go over to the other side, and we need to have that within 5/10 or so. So in order to move that, you release or you loosen the set screw, the holding set screw. You pull the carbide roll pin out, making sure the roll gears and everything. That side is typically the side of that goes onto the
Taper adjust.
taper adjust screw, and then the other side with the U shape is the side that goes on the set screw side. You turn the screw in or out 1 revolution, and then you slide the carbide roll pin back in. Sometimes you need to wiggle the set screw with the screwdriver slightly to get the pin to re-engage back in correctly. That's what Jill's doing now. And then you tighten down on the locking set screw. And then you re-indicate, zeroing on the non-moving side. Then indicating over on the moving side. So typically these, with the set screw, the taper on there, we try to shoot for evenness or parallelism within about 2 to 4 tenths, because that's equal to a revolution along that taper on the set screw. We always try to indicate as far over on each side so you can push the gears and the bearings into the counter bores accordingly so you can get as much of an area across the pin as possible. And that one's about 2 to 3 tenths, so that's good. And then we do the same for the other one. Where we have the stand is you just move up to the second arm and indicate on the on the non-moving side of the pin, zero that out, and then you go over to your adjustable side, and this one's already within a tenth or two, so we're good.
First, turn to Section 5 of your manual. Locate the mounting information and trip bracket assembly drawings. Double-check that you have all the required parts for installation. Begin installation by mounting the control valve assembly in a location that is easily accessible on the machine frame. Make sure the air hoses can reach the cross slide on which the attachment will be mounted. This mounting position should provide convenient access so initial adjustments to the regulator and periodic maintenance can be easily performed. In order to operate properly, your thread rolling attachment must be connected to a steady source of clean, dry air at a minimum pressure of 80 psi. Difficult applications involving long thread lengths, coarse pitches, large diameters, or hard-to-roll materials may require up to 110 psi. The control valve assembly should be directly connected to the main supply line by means of a minimum ID feed line of 1/2 inch. A smaller ID flexible plastic or rubber feed line, such as the type commonly connected to a handheld blowgun, will diminish the rolling pressure capacity of the thread rolling attachment. To install the trip bracket and valve mounting bracket, refer to the trip valve assembly drawing. The trip bracket must be mounted in a way that it can depress the trip valve button when the cross slide reaches the full forward position. Next, advance the slide to the full forward position and assemble the adjusting screw and jam nut into the trip bracket. Mount the trip valve button. Be sure there is sufficient clearance between the adjusting screw and the trip valve button. The adjusting screw must not interfere with the adjustment of the full forward position of the cross slide. Look again at your mounting information drawing. Make sure that the drawing refers to your make, model, and cross-slide position. Notice that some attachments mount directly to the cross-slide. If yours does not, then an adapter plate is necessary for your application. Using the same drawing, check that you have all the items assembled to the cross-slide in the proper configuration. The gauge setting must be taken against a blank that has been shaved to the correct diameter for the thread size being rolled. Therefore, locate your specific thread size in the thread rolling capacity and reference data charts and arrange to have the appropriate diameter blank in the spindle. Advance the cross-slide to the full forward position. For attachment models 141, 142, 145, 151, and 152, the gauge is located in the rear keyway. For all other models, the gauge is located in the front keyway. This gauge is used to adjust the full forward position of the cross-slide so that when in the full forward position, the thread rolling attachment will be aligned over the center line of the part. Locate your micrometer setting gauge. Adjust the micrometer setting gauge until the key is located in the T-slot of the cross-slide or the adapter plate if applicable. Hold the gauge firmly in position and adjust the micrometer until it touches the sized blank. Note the reading. Obtain the correct gauge setting from the thread rolling capacity and reference data charts. Compare the reading that you've taken with the correct gauge setting dimension. Adjust the cross-slide if necessary to obtain the correct reading. To assure repeatability, it is recommended that the last 3/1000ths to 5/1000ths of adjustment be obtained using the cross-slide positive stop. Also, in the case of multiple spindle machines, it is recommended that the gauge setting be taken against blanks in all spindle positions. Refer to the attachment mounting drawing in Section 5 of the manual. This drawing shows the thread rolling attachment, the adapter plate assembly if applicable, and all the necessary mounting hardware assembled in the proper configuration on the cross-slide. Position the machine cross-slide in the fully retracted position. Note that the thread rolling attachment has two surfaces on which it can be mounted. To determine the correct surface, position the thread rolling attachment so that it can be installed on the cross-slide with the compensator assembly facing away from the spindle. Note the mounting surface to be used. Install the attachment keys to this surface using the hardware supplied. Assemble the remainder of the mounting hardware to the attachment and install it on the cross-slide or adapter plate. Tighten the mounting hardware enough to secure the attachment in position, but loose enough so the attachment can be positioned from side to side. Advance the cross-slide to the full forward position and check the location of the thread rolls relative to the thread blank. Adjust the attachment position from side to side as necessary and tighten the hardware. Retract the cross-slide and adjust the air regulator to obtain a gauge reading of 80 to 100 psi. Connect the air lines and perform the following adjustments. Operate the flow control valve that is connected to the chip purge line. The purpose of the chip purge line is to pressurize the compensator mechanism area, which helps eliminate chip accumulation in the compensator gears. Open the valve until you notice a 2 to 3 pound drop on your pressure gauge. Now, depress the trip valve button several times by hand while operating the flow control valve in the red outline. Note that the attachment will cycle faster or slower depending upon where the valve is set. This is where the penetration rate is adjusted depending upon the material being rolled. Initially, set this flow control valve for the fastest possible attachment cycle. With the spindles turning, advance the cross-slide into the full forward position. Turn the adjusting screw until the thread rolling attachment cycles. Now, turn the adjusting screw an additional quarter turn and tighten the jam nut against the trip bracket. Adjust the pitch diameter knob 1/2 turn in the minus direction so that a light scribe line will appear on the part. Run the machine through a complete cycle and observe the part closely. See if the rolls appear to be in time. When the rolls are correctly matched, you will have a single spiral line down the length of the part. If a double line appears, the rolls are not matched. To align them, loosen the compensator collar. Hold one roll in its original position and move the other roll either up or down slightly. It's important to remember which way you move this roll in case you go the wrong way and make the condition worse. Continue this procedure until you have a single scribe line around the part. Now begin adjusting the pitch diameter knob in the minus direction. Using a glass or loop, make sure there is a slight crater in the middle of the thread. Both sides of the thread crest should be equal. If not, another minor timing correction is required. Continue adjusting the pitch diameter knob until you reach the high side of the pitch tolerance, or until the go gauge starts. At this time, you are now ready to adjust the penetration rate. Refer to your instruction manual, section 4.4, to determine the recommended number of revs. Depending upon the material and thread that you are rolling, most threads can be rolled in a range of 8 to 15 revs. The ideal situation is to roll the thread as fast as possible while still filling the dies consistently. Always keep in mind that different materials move at different rates, so several variations will be found in this area. After adjusting the penetration rate, continue turning the pitch diameter knob until pitch diameter is within tolerance and/or the go and no-go gauges fit properly. Now, check your major diameter. To get the actual diameter you desire, you may have to make some adjustments to your blank. Remember, a change in blank diameter of 1/1000th will change the major diameter approximately 3/1000ths. For this reason, it is not recommended that you change the blank more than 5/10ths at a time. You should now be making a good thread on each part. In the event that you should have taper in your pitch or major diameters, refer to section 5.7 in your manual. Also, be sure to check your manual for special instructions on taper pipe threads and for any clearance problems that may arise. CJWinter Machine Works, providing the knowledge, expertise, and experience you need to obtain superior performance, productivity, and reliability from your thread rolling attachment.
Please visit us at www.cjwinter.com for additional information.